Leadership, as I've come to appreciate, is not an end game. It's a journey. It's something that we are constantly looking to master. And I've been studying this leadership space now for just on 40 years, and I find it quite fascinating. Having said that, despite the fact that I'm so well versed in the leadership space, sometimes I struggle with my own leadership. When I was a kid, I was 13 years of age. We played in a grand final, lost the grand final. I had a pretty ordinary game, and the coach of the team, junior team I was playing in, was really filthy with all of us players. And he said to me, he was going around criticising the players. He came to me and said, "Pearce," he said, "you're nothing but a lemon." And I took that on board as pretty harsh criticism. But then when I thought about it, when I got home over the next week, I ruminated on it. It really cut me, and it struck me that if I'm a lemon, all I can do is see how much lemon juice I can squeeze out of that lemon. And for me, the concept of marginal gains, which is the fancy name for the 1%ers, was what my whole career as a rugby league player, rugby league coach, and post-career has been built on. It's all the little things that I can address to be the best I can be. And why I share that with you as leaders, because as leaders, we need to move into that space. There is no one magic pill, one magic tonic we can take to make our business, to make your business any better. There's a whole lot of little things that we all need to address. And I want to share with you some principles around what is the massive gap in business, not just in real estate, but in the broader business. And I want to put some context around this, and that is that the world that we live in is changing at a massive rate. From the year 1900 up until the early 1990s, the world was experiencing linear change. When I was a young kid in the 60s and 70s growing up, one day just ambled and meandered into the next. There was a massive change. But what happened was the world hit a tipping point, and that tipping point was when the world connected to the internet. When the world connected to the internet, the world shifted from linear change to exponential change. That's the world we're in at the moment. And this quote from Bill Gates summarises the shift that we need to embrace as leaders. And that is, it's not the big that eat the small, it's the fast that eat the slow. And that's coming from Bill Gates. If we're not nimble, we're not mobile, we're not able to respond and react to what's happening around us, better still, if we're not able to stay ahead of the curve, then we're going to get swallowed up. And that means we need to continue to learn, unlearn, relearn. I'll say it again. Learn, unlearn, relearn. We've got to continually shift, and I think Michael hit it on the head, that confirmation bias that we have. If we don't embrace curiosity as leaders, we are going to get swallowed up. In terms of that world that I just talked about, there's been a shift, significant shift in the way that businesses operate from the old world concept of efficiency. Now, when I say old world, because before the tipping point, that's what businesses were driven by. If we're more efficient with our resources, we're going to make more money. Yeah? And that, while it sits there as a secondary driver, it should not be the primary driver nowadays. Because the primary driver nowadays is the concept of innovation. If we don't innovate, then we're going to get left behind. If we're not curious enough to inquire and capitalise on the knowledge that we have and the IP we have inside of our industry and pitch ideas from elsewhere, then we're not going to be able to grasp stay ahead of the curve. What also has happened as this world has shifted, we've shifted from a concept of stability to a world of incredible volatility. Now, what that means is that people once were comfortable, nowadays we're all operating in this environment of discomfort. There's risk there, and it's quite unsafe. Why I share that with you is because there's more and more focus nowadays than there ever has on leadership. The old world was fine because there wasn't much change happening, so therefore I wasn't having to deal with people's emotions and getting them focused. But nowadays, with all the change comes imminent threats to perceived non-conscious brain of it's going to be risky. Because you know what? The non-conscious brain is a pattern recognition device. My brain, your brain at the non-conscious level, there's millions of patterns in there. And consciously, if I see something, for example, I get in my car and drive to work every day. I don't remember accelerator, brake, clutch, indicator, because there's a pattern for that. I get in the car, turn the car on, I know where I'm going to go. Non-conscious brain takes over. When there's no pattern for the non-conscious brain to refer to, it defaults to a discomfort space. Discomfort equates to stress. Stress equates to lack of focus, and we underperform. We perform best when we're in that relaxed space. So from a leadership perspective, I then talk about, well, what's this leadership space about? It's about providing guidance to where we're going to go moving forward, as opposed to just focusing on the tasks. It's about allowing our people to become the best they can be. That's the simplest reason. And my business, simplest explanation. And it's about my business creating an environment where my business can become the best it can be. And that's potentially going forward. It's that possibility thinking that Michael laid a foundation for just before. In terms of teamwork's always been important, but now it is so much more important than it ever has been. Why? Because the world is so much more complex. I can't be like I was in the old days over all aspects of my business to the detail that I need to be, which is what happened in the management space, to the leadership space where I've got to allow others and empower others to do their piece. But this teamwork stuff is a little bit lost in terms of what are the fundamentals that I need to work on. Now, I'm just going to show you this clip here because this talks about how teamwork has become so much more important in, as Michael talked about, professional sport, which is probably the leading industry in this teamwork space, certainly in the research of the teamwork. Interesting thing around this is that Korn Ferry were asked and commissioned by NBN Co, the big cable rollout company, back in 2015, because they were struggling to get quality leaders across their business to roll out the cable to the extent that it needed to be rolled out in the time frame. So they commissioned Korn Ferry, which is a large recruitment company, does a lot of research, to investigate where the gaps were in this leadership space. And what they wanted to know was which skills were easy to go and recruit, which ones were hard to go and recruit. And if I can't recruit them, can I train them? Yep. So what they did was they looked at the top 16 leadership competencies. On the vertical axis on the left-hand side going up is how easy it is to recruit. So high supply, bottom left-hand corner, top left-hand corner is low supply. So lots available down the bottom, hard to get up the top if I want to go and recruit them. On the bottom axis going across, how easy are they to train these skills? Easy to train, hard to train. So the bottom left-hand corner are the skills, the leadership skills that are a dime a dozen. Top right-hand corner are those skills that are hardest to recruit and hardest to train. Number one, hardest to retrain, is building effective teams. Number two is developing talent. It's coaching your people. Number three, driving vision and purpose, which is that culture piece. And number four is managing ambiguity. Take managing ambiguity out of the equation. The other three are very much people-centric. Yep. Others-centric. So this teamwork stuff is a massive gap in the broader business of Australia. Yep. Because where do you learn this stuff? Even I've been researching this for close to 40 years, actually researching. And even the universities are really behind the space of what professional sport can tell you. But there's a whole lot of principles that if we embrace these, it will help give us a significant competitive edge. This is a comparison between a poorly performing team and a high performing team. Massachusetts Institute of Technology do a lot of research in this space, and they've come up with this diagrammatic, picture of what a good team is versus a poor team. The good team, there's lots of connections between people. Connections. People feel that connection, yeah? In a poorly performing team, there's cliques. Some people are connected, others aren't. Now, you might think that's good enough, but it is not. It's significantly underperforming. Now, sort of I suppose the next question is, where do you see great teamwork? And Michael gave you a hint, I've given you a hint. Certainly in professional sport, you see great teamwork. Where else do you see high-level, sustainable teamwork? Now, I would suggest special operations in the Army. Yeah, excellent teamwork there. The stakes are high. Stakes are high in sport as well. Also, the stakes are high in the fire brigade. Great teamwork there. Are the stakes high in your business? If you're a business owner, they are. In a tough market, they are. Yeah? Now, interestingly, what do all three of these disciplines have in common? There's a whole lot of stuff they have in common. But when you distill it down, what do they have in common that maybe your business doesn't, or businesses across Australia don't? And that is, if I take the sports one, and the others are the same, the sports environment, they practice 4 days a week. Practicing teamwork 4 days a week. They have 2 rest days and they have 1 game day. If I might surmise what I know about you guys, you've probably got 5 game days or 6 game days, 1 or 2 rest days, and 0 practice days. So if that's the case, how do you expect to have high performance teamwork? How do you expect to have, and are you capitalising on that energy, the talent, the desire within your team? Most businesses don't understand, if they did have practice time, what are they going to practice? What I want to share with you is some simple fundamentals of what you can practice in a very short period of time, because it's obvious once you are introduced to the concepts. In business, they say, oh, well, you know, it takes 6 months, it takes 12 months to get a great high-performing team. Rubbish. If you've got the fundamentals in place, the principles in place, and the right people, it can be fast-tracked. When you are authentic and open and transparent about who you are and sharing stuff in a manner that is authentic in particular, what happens is the body secretes a substance called oxytocin. Our limbic system, okay, the hypothalamus produces a neurochemical called oxytocin. Oxytocin circulates through the body, and that generates a feeling of empathy and compassion. So if you're listening to somebody sharing that, you are feeling that sense of compassion and empathy. It is a very real response, and it's one that professional sports teams and these sustainable high performance disciplines that understand the fundamentals of teamwork will milk. They'll milk that concept. Now, if you think, and you're a business leader who is not leading, who's actually managing, because you don't believe you bring feelings or emotion or connections into your work, you are going to continue to underperform. Simple as that, end of story. Yeah, because the trust is not going to be as strong as it needs to be. And if I was to draw a high performance pyramid that represents the fundamentals we need to have in place in order, yeah, the base of the pyramid would absolutely be trust. Why? Because human safety, emotional safety, and physical safety is the most important non-conscious driver we have outside of desire for food, water, and air. So trust is really critical. Trust is not enough. You're not going to have a high-performance team just because you've got a trusting team. You've got to have absolutely clear expectations around behaviours. You've got to have clear expectations around vision, where you want to get to. You've got to have clear expectation around goals. There's a whole lot of stuff that we need to be clear. Everybody needs to be clear on. But that's still not good enough. You can have high trust and high clear expectations, but if you do not drive accountability, which means that you've got to keep individuals accountable for what they do, and in the great teams, everybody keeps everybody accountable for agreed behaviours regardless of role or position. And the final level of the pyramid is the energizer level. This is really, really critical level. This is celebrating achievements. It's creating an environment where your team members are encouraging and supporting each other. We are driven by energy. That's what makes us human. That's what keeps us alive. But it's the frequency of vibration of that energy that varies from person to person according to their mood, their emotional state. And if we're in a higher emotional state, we are much more likely to perform at a much more productive level. But sitting under all this is one other thing. That's a sense of purpose. If you and we as leaders are not driving a sense of purpose, and people don't come to work feeling that their role is meaningful and purposeful, then what happens is our people are only going to be inspired and motivated for a short term, and that purpose, if it's not felt, will drop off. Now, there's one other factor I want to mention, And that is the key enabler of all this. There's one key enabler. And that one key enabler is the quality of the team leader. That's the quality of you in understanding how to drive this high performance culture. And that is really predicated on your desire and curiosity. It's about you learning, unlearning, and relearning.